I reached the Palace of the Winding Path by midday. From a distance, it looked peaceful, serene. Built into the hillside with flowing architecture and curved rooftops, it felt like a place meant for reflection, for quiet, for peace. The wooden walkways hung over the water, falling apart but somehow still held a sense of balance. But as I got closer, that feeling cracked. Scorch marks stained the walls, windows were shattered, blood dried into the stone steps, barely visible beneath wind-blown leaves. There had been violence here. I didn't have much time to take in the beauty before the truth of the place reared its head. I stepped through one of the first doors, and a scorched came lunging at me from the shadows, then another. So much for peace. After dispatching a few more of the scorched, the silence returned. I took a moment to breathe, and I let myself really look around. The inside was breathtaking. The room was draped in rich red wood, polished and warm despite a layer of dust. Gold trim adorned the edges, from doors to moldings, even along the ceiling that arched gracefully into a glass dome above. Deep crimson drapes hung in long, softly glowing folds from wall fixtures. Each floor boasted an ornate, hand-carved banister with sweeping designs that drew the eye upward. Despite decay, broken furniture, and scattered signs of violence, the place was something to see. As I explored the palace, I started to uncover its story. This had once been a place for peaceful reflection. Quiet, spiritual, maybe even healing. But even before the bombs, it had been tainted. Terminals and scattered notes told of greed worming its way in, both from those running the place and outsiders looking to exploit it. Raiders weren't born after the war. They were always around, just wearing different faces. At the top, I found her, Margie McClintock. Slumped over on a balcony overlooking the palace, chem still scattered beside her. She wasn't scorched. No signs of struggle. She went out on her own terms, quietly, peacefully. Part of me wanted to think she earned that kind of ending. She tried to walk away from the raider life, saw where it led and wanted something better. But it's hard to forget how many people probably died before she had that change of heart. Maybe she watched it happen. Maybe she didn't stop it when she could have. I searched her for the key fragment, hoping she'd kept it close. But there was nothing. Just chems and scraps. The Palace of the Winding Path really lived up to its name. It felt more like navigating a maze than a place of meditation. By the time I found what I needed to recreate the key fragment, the sun had long since dipped below the horizon. With the admin password in hand, I finally accessed the backup system terminal. To my surprise, the machine still worked. I located the key fragment file, held my breath, and watched as the console processed everything. With a mechanical click, the system spit out a fresh holotape copy of the key fragment. Relief hit me like a wave. One more step complete.
Hey, I kinda lost track of you out there. I was, busy doing some stuff. And by stuff, I mean chems. You know, I almost feel bad for old Margie. Smart as a whip, but never did like to get her hands dirty, and couldn't hack it when push came to shove. Anyway, did you find her key? Let's pretend you did and move on. I don't have all day to watch you putter about. Hey, speaking of putters, I'm not sure what you'll find at Bolton Greens, but I am sure that whatever happened to the Gourmands, it was as grisly and inhuman as they were. Good luck. You'll forgive me for not watching this time.
And right on cue, Rosie crackled through my Pip-Boy again. Her voice was as smug and unbothered as always, ready to send me off to the next stop on the scavenger hunt. No rest for the helpful, I guess. Next up were the Gourmands. According to Rosie, they used to live in a place called Bolton Greens. It used to be a country club, though it's hard to imagine anyone sipping tea on a lawn when all I can think about is what the Gourmands did to people. Even now, the thought of them makes my stomach turn. Raiders were bad enough, but cannibals. That's a level of depravity I still struggle to process. Still, I pressed on. The night was young, and I was determined to see this through, no matter what I found waiting for me. I stuck to the woods, following the ridgelines and keeping to the shadows. Eventually, the building came into view large and looming, its roof peeking through the treetops. The grounds were eerie. Overgrown walking paths wound around the property, and broken playground equipment stood as rusted skeletons of a time long gone. It seemed like the place had once catered to families, especially kids. I even saw a crumpled drawing on a stone wall, crude crayon lines but violent imagery. A child trying to make sense of a twisted world, maybe even raised by the Gourmands themselves. Circling the building, I ran into more scorched, probably what's left of the Gourmands. I didn't hesitate. I never thought of myself as someone who takes pleasure in killing, but putting down cannibals twisted into monsters? Yeah, that felt right. Above the main entrance hung their mark, a skull, jawless, blood dripping from the mouth with a knife and fork crossed behind it, their calling card. Disgusting. Inside, the club was strangely well preserved, crystal chandeliers still intact, furniture only slightly decayed. Mr. Handy unit still hovered around the halls, offering refreshments and friendly greetings to ghosts. For all its history, for all the horror tied to it, Bolton Greens still looked like a place someone might want to live. But beneath the surface, I knew better. Once I started nearing the kitchen, everything changed. The air grew heavier, thicker. I started to notice meat sacks sitting on old baggage carts, bloated, leaking things that I didn't want to look at too long. The smell hit me before I even reached the kitchen door. Rot, blood, decay, like something had died and stayed dead for far too long. When I finally opened the door, I nearly lost it. The floor was soaked in dried, sticky blood, with stains so deep they'd seeped into the tile. A gaping hole had been torn through the wall, leading into what must have once been the pool area, though calling it that now feels wrong. The pool was half filled with stagnant, bloody water. Bodies, some scorched and some long decomposed, littered the edges. The stench of death here was overwhelming. But what I saw in the adjacent shower room, that's what will haunt me. A lump of meat wrapped in chains, stacked like a grotesque monument to cruelty. It was impossible to tell what it had once been. Human, maybe. Several. It was butchered and bound like something meant for storage. Is this where they butchered their victims? I don't even want to write the answer. I feel sick just thinking about it. The raiders I faced were brutal, but this was evil in its purest form. In the back of the kitchen, I found a side door that led out to a small outdoor serving counter. I stood there for a minute, just breathing. Once I pulled myself together, I accessed the nearby terminal, hoping it might tell me where the leader of the Gourmands, Morris, had ended up. Honestly, I was just praying I wouldn't find him half-eaten by one of the scorched that still lingered inside. The entries were disturbing. The Gourmands, twisted as they were, had rules. One of them, no eating other Gourmands. How noble. Even monsters draw lines, I guess. Eventually, I found what I was looking for. According to one entry, Morris and his wife Edith had broken the Gourmands' golden rule. After some dispute, they'd killed and eaten another member of the gang. The rest of the Gourmands voted not to execute them. The cannibals exiled them instead. They were last seen heading east. Not much to go on, but it was something. Near the terminal, I found a holotape. Against my better judgment, I played it. I regret it.
Edie and I have been feeling a little extra hungry of late, and the others are starting to ask questions. Morris, how can you be hungry when you're still so fat? You know what I say to that? I'm hungry because I'm the boss here. It takes a lot of effort to wrangle these useless idiots so we don't all starve, and that works up an appetite. Honestly, it's been several days since we've come across any more food. Usual unsuspecting travelers have been harder to come by. I can only assume the damn cutthroats have been scaring them all away, or not sharing their binds with us. Well, the others won't like it, but we're gonna have to go to Plan B. Edie's on board with me. And I've been thinking about Gregory. He's got a lot of meat on him, and he's been rather useless lately. Yeah, no one will miss him. Maybe his wife. And his little girl, perhaps. But Vanessa will know what's good for her, and she's too much of a good fighter to eat just yet. And the kid, well, I'm not a monster. Besides, kids are too scrawny.
I kept searching through Bolton Greens, trying to find something, anything, that could lead me to where Morris and Edie had gone after their exile. On the second floor, resting in front of a fireplace, I finally found it. A note, faded, water-stained but still legible. It mentioned a cave on the other side of the mountain. That was all I needed to hear. I stuffed the note in my pack and didn't look back. I couldn't get out of that place fast enough. After everything I'd seen and smelled in that twisted monument to cruelty, even a cold, dark cave sounded like a step up. My map had a name for the cave I was heading towards, Wendigo Cave. The name alone made my stomach twist. I remembered stories Garrett used to tell me when we were kids. Tales of Wendigos, people who ate human flesh and transformed into monsters, all bone and hunger, their humanity long gone. I always thought they were just stories meant to scare me. But the further I descended into that cave, the more I realized they weren't just stories. It was dark, narrow, and cold. The air was thick with the scent of death, and bones crunched under my boots with every step. At the bottom, in a twisted little grotto, I found what was left of Morris. His body was a grotesque husk, stretched over bones, stomach bulging unnaturally. Around him, the remains of his victims lay scattered. Half-eaten, rotting, stripped of dignity. He had become the very monster the legends warned about, and in a way, it felt right. That was the kind of end someone like him deserved. The only thing more justified was putting him down once and for all. I pried the holotape from what was left of his body, trying not to look at his face, not that it was human anymore. Right on cue, Rosa's voice crackled to life in my ear.
Hey, I hope you're still alive out there, wherever you are. Else I'm talking to a corpse. I assume the Gourmands just ate each other to death. I'll never ask what actually happened, though. The thought of eating another human grosses me out. Ugh. Makes me glad robots were never on their menu. So, there's one more key fragment. This one belonged to the Cutthroats. David, the guy who led us, is alive. Or something like it. I saw him roaming around out there, near his favorite barbecue shack. Turned into one of those scorched things. It breaks my heart to see him like that. He could be a real jackass, but he doesn't deserve that fate. Now I'd bet anything he's still got his key fragment on him. So really, he'd be doing everyone involved a huge favor by putting him out of our collective misery. And taking the key. Kiss him goodbye for me? Actually, don't. He's probably all malformed and disgusting now. Yeah, yuck.
By the time I stepped out of Wendigo Cave, my body was running on fumes. Between the endless halls of the Palace of the Winding Path, the nightmare I walked through at Bolton Greens, and the thing I faced in that cave, I was spent. I didn't get far before I found a clearing and set up camp. Just enough to stay warm and dry. As I sit here now, the fire crackling softly beside me, I can't stop replaying the day in my mind. The peace I felt at the palace feels like a dream now. It lulled me into a sense of calm that made what followed feel all the more violent. Bolton Greens wasn't just another raider camp. It was a shrine to human depravity. And Wendigo Cave, that place will haunt me forever. Back in the vault, our teachers warned us about the world above. They said people on the surface had to make hard choices, that survival meant doing things we'd never understand. We were told to show compassion when we could, to be the better part of the old world. But they didn't know about the Blackwater bandits, the trappers, the Gourmands. Pity wouldn't have saved me. It would have gotten me killed or eaten. And the more I learn, the more I realize the truth about the world. Some people weren't victims of the wasteland. They became what made it horrible. If I'm the one to end their stories, then maybe that's the role I was meant to play.